Hey everybody, it's Melissa and Jeff. We are going to be talking to you this evening about the different ways to close wholesale deals. So get your pens and papers ready. I know a lot of this stuff is things that we've gone over before and that you guys have heard before, but we're still getting a lot of people asking us questions about assignments of contract and double closings. And so we want to go over it again for you just to make sure that that's clear and that everybody understands that. Sorry about that. Was my phone. I should shut that off. Now would you text that? That's Gina. Let her know. Yes, thank you. The first thing I want to talk about is the assignment of contract. And what this is it's really your ability to assign your ability to purchase the property to another individual. So while this is really a form of wholesaling, you're not really closing on it physically yourself. You're just assigning your right to purchase. So what you're going to do is you're going to write your purchase and sale contract with your seller, just like you normally would, making sure that you've got all of the pertinent information, contingencies and whatnot in there. And once you have mutual acceptance, which is when both parties have agreed 100% to the contract, then and signed the contract, then you can go ahead and solicit that or market that to your end buyers. And what you're going to do is let them know that you have a contract for sale on a property that you have locked up. And obviously you're going to do an assignment of contract form with them, and then you're going to go ahead and put your assignment fee in that contract so that your end buyer knows exactly what they're going to be compensating you for on that deal. Now with an assignment of contract, it's your responsibility, in my opinion, for you to send not only your original purchase and sale contract that you did with the seller to the title company, but it's also your responsibility to turn in your assignment of contract that you have signed with your end buyer to the title company as well, to ensure that your title company or attorney, whomever is doing your closings, is aware of who the final purchaser actually is. So what you want to do is send all of that over, talk to your title agent, your closing agent, let them know what you're doing, send all of that over. Now for us, if we do an assignment of contract, we just get our check at closing. That way we're always sure that we're going to get compensated. We always know the money is going to come to us at closing. And so that's how we do it. Now some other people do their assignment of contract. They get paid as soon as they sign the contract over to the end buyer. And you're certainly welcome to do that. The challenge that we have had with other people in that regard is that they'll get that payment and then for some reason the deal doesn't close and your end buyer wants their assignment fee back. So if you're going to collect your money up front, I would encourage you to put a clause in your assignment contract that your assignment fee is non-refundable should the deal not move forward, something of that nature, just to protect yourself if that's what you want to do. But if you decide to go ahead and just get it at closing, so what's going to happen is it's going to be a traditional closing, and what will happen is the seller is actually closing with your end buyer, and that'll go through a traditional method. You can either go to closing as the liaison of the deal or the wholesaler of the deal and collect your check, or have the title company mail it to you, or you can pick it up after the transaction. But you're going to want to make sure that the title company has all of the contact information for your end buyer to ensure that they know who to send the title paperwork to, that your end buyer has the opportunity to see the HUD-1 so that they know exactly what the fees are that are going to be incurred in closing that transaction. Then you're done with that deal. That's really just the assignment of contract. The one thing I want to stress on this though is that when you do your assignment of contract with your end buyer, you also want to let them see the original contract that you did with your seller, because really that's what you're assigning over to them, is that contract, and that's your right to you're assigning your right to buy that property over to them. So you're selling your contract. So they need to see that contract because they need to agree to that as well, to the terms of that as you did. If they're not going to agree to those terms, then they may not be the right buyer or for that assignment of contract, simply because once you've got a mutually accepted agreement between you and the seller, if your end buyer doesn't agree to those terms, you're going to have to go back and ask for things to be changed or modified. And a lot of times that doesn't always go over real well with your seller. So you just want to make sure they understand that they're assuming the right to purchase that property via the contract that you've already negotiated with that seller. So that's really important. I do want to encourage each one of you to go ahead and put comments up if you do have comments. I think I'm able to see both here. I'm going to go to the other side as well, see what I can find on here, but please feel free to ask questions and I'll do my best to try and get those answered for you. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the double close. I know we've talked about this before, and the big thing with a double close is you're actually having two specific transactions. One of them, you are buying it and then selling it right away. You're closing it, you're buying at 9 and you're selling it at 10. They usually happen the same day. Sometimes you can stretch them out to 24 hours. I always recommend, or Jeff and I do, that you do it the same day. Coordinate everything right away so there's no problems and there's no confusion about when things are or are not closing. The other thing you want to make sure is, with a double close, is that your purchase with your seller in the beginning is really just your business. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with your secondary buyer. They are not privy to what your first contract says. They don't get to see that contract. That is your private purchase between yourself and your seller. And then you're now becoming the seller to your end buyer. So in essence, you're doing it as a for sale by owner, writing your own private contract between yourself and your end buyer. So that's their business. That C to B to C is that part, and the A to B is a whole nother part. Again, I am always very proactive with the title company and ensuring that I'm the one making sure all of the copies get sent over to the title company, making sure that everything is set up properly and ready to move forward. Now, the first half of that transaction, you may be purchasing through a real estate broker or an agent, and that's okay. You can still do that. You just need to make sure that you adhere to the terms of that agreement. And then when you're selling it to your end buyer, you're certainly welcome to let your real estate agent know what you're doing. It's not required. All they need to know is that you're closing on that deal as you agreed with the seller through that contract with your broker and whatever their multiple listing service requirements are. And then just make sure you send over your second half to the title company. Now, there's special conditions that you can put in there to ensure that you are, getting the most bang for your buck. Of course, you're going to mark up the property from your first one to your second one. Your A to B, let's just say you're buying it for $50,000 and you're going to go ahead and sell it to your end buyer for $70,000. I'm just using some basic numbers here. So out of that first half, that $50,000, you are going to have closing costs and expenses incurred because you're physically closing on that property. Now, if you don't have actual cash to close on that property, you're going to need to use transactional funding or private money, and I'm sure there's going to be fees associated with that as well. So your goal is to recoup those expenses on the second half of that transaction. You can do that a couple different ways. You can put in your contract to your end buyer that they pay all the closing costs, or they pay up to a certain dollar amount of closing costs, or that you make sure you increase the price enough to cover that, because you're also going to have some fees associated with the closing on the second half. So it's all about the contingencies and just making sure you have everything set up the right way, so that you are maximizing your income on that as well. I want to look online really quick and see if there's any questions that anybody may have at the moment. So let's see what we've got here. You can't get on?
When they let me in.
Let's see here. Okay, so I am on here. All right, so I can see everybody and I can see the questions. So if there's anybody that has questions. So while I'm waiting for some questions, a couple things I want to talk about too with wholesaling is you just want to make sure that, I mean, it's not like a big secret that everybody's wholesaling, but it certainly isn't something that you need to put out there and share with everybody. Oh, hey, I'm wholesaling this property. I mean, really, it's just a for sale by owner transaction when you're doing the double close. If you're going to assign the contract, really the only people that need to know that is the, you know, your end buyer, and obviously knows you're assigning it to them, but the title company is the other entity that needs to know that that's being assigned. Your seller obviously may question when they see that what's going on, and you know, you just simply let them know, I just assigned my right to buy your property to my end buyer for whatever reason you decide to use. So just make sure that all of your documentation is set up properly and that your transactions flow the way that they're supposed to go. And usually you should have no issues with any of that. I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. Anyone? All right, so what I want to talk about next is there's two kinds of closings, double closings that you can do. And I want to touch base with you and let you know the transaction I just talked about is called a wet double close, meaning that each entity comes to the table with money and you physically are paying for the purchase, closing right away, and then your end buyer is paying for the purchase and closing right away. So hang on one second, someone's got a question on there.
Does my realtor need to know? It's the question I see.
Yes. So the only question that I see, I'm sorry, that's come in was, does my realtor need to know? So for me,
I can't see you and I can't respond.
you know, if we have a great relationship with the realtors that we work with, so we work with more than one, and our realtors know what we do in our business. They know that we're investors, they know that we're wholesalers, they know that we're flippers, and they also know that we're landlords. And so we're encouraging them to help us find properties that fit each one of those criterias. And so they understand that we're going to be wholesaling or assigning contracts. So that's something we have a conversation with. If you're getting started and you're still a little bit unsure about the process, you're not required to disclose that you're going to double close or wholesale that property to someone. But, you know, we're kind of the mindset, we just are, you know, we're pretty open with what we do. So it's truly up to you. It's not required that your realtor know. But if you want to have a good relationship with them and have them help you find more properties that can fit your wholesaling criteria, then you might want to share with them what you're going to do so they can find properties at a bigger discount for you than they might if they thought you physically were going to purchase it and rehab it. So I want to say yes and I want to say no. It just depends on your specific situation. I know that's probably not the best answer, but it's the best one I can give you depending on the situation. So I hope that helps. The only other question... so Andy, you're awesome. You're always on here. He says there seems to be a buffering issue on there. So if there's a little bit of a delay or people are having a hard time seeing, there will be a replay of this and you can certainly watch that later. So please don't get discouraged if you're not getting this information right this second. There will be a replay and you can certainly watch it then. Another question was, when I'm borrowing money from a private lender, I am paying a percentage back based on the APR or the amortization. So whatever your private money lender's agreement is with you, that's different depending on every lender. So private money, when you're using it, especially for wholesaling, especially like transactional funding, a lot of times they will just pay you, you'll just pay them a fee for using their money for 24 hours. That's usually how we have it set up. So it's not really based on an amortization schedule because you're not keeping the property more than 24 hours. Now, if you're going to hold the property for 90 days or 120 days because you want to rehab it, then you're going to look at, you know, interest-only payments with a private lender, And sometimes if it's hard money, you're paying points up front. But what we're talking about here is wholesaling, and so there really isn't any payments long term. It's those transactions are usually done the same day, or if not within 24 hours. So I hope that helps as far as private lending goes. If you're going to use a private lender for wholesaling, you would not typically have their money locked up for more than 24 hours. And you can actually set that up with your title company to ensure that they are getting their money back right at closing. That's just something you can let your title company know. Hope that answers that question.
So make sure you tell them that you're always a cash buyer, because there's a question on there.
And excuse me. And something I want to make sure that everybody knows, pardon me, is that when you are making your offers as a wholesaler, I think there's a question on here, you are always a cash buyer. You don't, I mean, goodness, sorry about that. The only time we would consider indicating that we're not a cash buyer is if it's something that we may be holding for something that we're going to keep as a rental, and maybe we're using hard money or private money long term, and then we just indicate on our form that we're purchasing it with other money. But when it comes to wholesaling, you're a cash buyer, because by and large your end buyer, someone that you've already vetted, somebody that you have a relationship with, you know they're a cash buyer, and ultimately they're the one purchasing the property, so they will be the end cash buyer. So you'll always want to make it under cash purchase assumption. So I was talking about a wet close, which is both parties bringing money to the table. The other one is a dry close, and this is something that is done. It is not illegal. I know you've probably heard from several people, including title companies, that it's not a legal thing to do. However, there is no legislation that I'm aware of or that anybody's been able to provide to the best of my knowledge to indicate that you're not allowed to do a dry double close. So what a dry double close is you're doing, you know, your A to B transaction and your B to C, but that your C person is sending their money to the title company. Usually I have them do it 48 hours before we close, and then that money actually pays for your purchase on the first side of that transaction. So it's dry because you're not bringing money to the table. So your end buyer is paying for everything. That's called the dry double close. So when you're calling around and vetting out your title companies or attorneys, you want to ask them, you know, do you close via assignment of contract? Yes or no? Do you close via double close? Yes or no? Will you do wet and dry closes? And they'll know what those are. And if they don't, you can just explain, you know, well, obviously wet close is, you know, both parties bringing money to the table. Dry close is where we're using our end buyer's money to do the entire purchase. And they'll understand that once you explain it to them. And if they don't do a wet close, then that's okay. Keep track of those attorneys and title companies that'll do the double close anyway, because maybe you just want to diversify a little bit and close with more than one title company every once in a while. But keep calling around. You'll find somebody that will do a dry double close, and then you can funnel those offers right over to them as needed. So those are the two types of double closes that are available. Any other questions right now that I can answer for anybody? I don't see anything new coming up, and if there's a buffer, I'm so sorry. The questions will probably pop up here in just a moment. So I want to, while we're waiting for questions to kind of come in too, I just want to share a couple kind of off-topic things. We talk about wholesaling quite a bit here on the IE family, and I know it's a big part of most of our businesses. And I want to just reach out to the people that either haven't done a deal yet or are still kind of starting, and who is just kind of done one or two deals, but they're just not really kicking into gear because they've got one thing or another that's just not working for them. And I want to let you know that you have the tools available to you, and you have the knowledge, and trust me, you have the skill set to do a wholesale deal. What you need to do is just shift in your mind that you can accomplish that, and that you have enough education to do it. I read something the other day, actually, from somebody who is a very large real estate individual, and what she had said is that over education causes paralysis. When you over-educate yourself and you don't take action, you kind of fall into this category where you know how to do it, but you've not physically implemented it, so you won't take that step to do it, but you've certainly got enough knowledge to tell yourself, yeah, well, I can do that if I wanted to. And you can't step over whatever that barrier is to physically get that done. So there's a ton of information on this site. There's a ton of information on these videos. And there certainly is a ton of people on this website that you can reach out to and ask questions to on a regular basis in regards to not only wholesaling, but any type of transaction that you want to accomplish. So please just know that you right now, today, have the skills and the knowledge to go out and start doing wholesale transactions. You just have to take action. So I encourage you guys to do that. So new question. When receiving an assignment fee, is a wire transfer possible? Yes, you can certainly have your fee wired to you. However, you're going to get charged with wire fees. So let's just say you're assigning your contract for $1,500, but let's just say there's $60 in wire fees. You know, maybe the title company charges you to wire it to them, and your incoming wire causes a fee too. So that's eating out your profit right there. I always just get a check at closing. That's just easier. If you're in an area where your fee might be more than $10,000, and some states and cities, actually counties, regulate anything over $10,000 is required to be wired. So if you're getting an assignment fee over $10,000, it may be required to be wired. But I just want to stress that an assignment fee does not hold the same weight in return as a double close. In my opinion, an assignment of contract is a $5,000 or less fee, probably closer to the $2,500 range if you're just assigning the contract. And really, if you think about it, this is how I think about it. All I'm really doing is getting a property locked up, and I'm letting someone else do all of the work. So that process for us takes, you know, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. So a $2,500 assignment fee is pretty good on an hourly basis if you look at it that way. On a double close, you can jump that up to $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. And if you're in some parts of the country where you're wholesaling high dollar properties, those returns can be much higher. And that's usually where you're getting that bigger return, is on the double close, or where you're physically closing and then reselling the same day. So you can have it wired, to answer your question, but you're going to have wire fees, and that's going to take out of your profit. Next question. I'm just getting started with wholesaling. Can you explain step by step what I need to do for marketing an offer? What to do after my offer gets accepted? I don't have a realtor yet. How do I process without a realtor? Okay, let me break this down in questions. These are great questions. So first of all, congratulations on just getting started in wholesaling. That's amazing. And you're going to do amazing because you're here and you're getting the education, and you're going to be able to go out and take action right away. When you're making an offer on a property, it's the same whether you're going to keep it or you're going to wholesale it. There's a lot of offer formulas here on the IE site. I know that everybody has access to those. You have to figure out what your end buyer needs and wants, especially if you're going to wholesale. So if they want to be all in on a property at 70% of its after repair value, right? Let's do some math. So $100,000 after repair value, meaning once it's renovated, it can be sold on the market for $100,000, right? And your end buyer wants to be all in at 70% of that. That means they don't want to spend any more than $70,000. And that $70,000 has to include their purchase price, your wholesale fee or assignment fee, and the amount of money it's going to cost to rehab that property, right? So you have to deduct back from that 70% or that $70,000 all of those factors to ensure that your end buyer is in at their number. So for us, right, let's say if somebody wants to be all in at 70%, and I know the house needs $20,000 in rehab, right? So we go 70, 60, $50,000 now is what I have to be able to consider for the $20,000, right? I want $10,000 on my wholesale fee, so that brings it down to $40,000. So that means I have to buy that property for less than $40,000. So you just kind of have to figure out what your formula is, but that's just a real basic one there. So that's how to make an offer kind of with wholesaling in mind. You just have to look at what your end buyer wants. After your offer gets accepted, then, you know, if you're using a realtor, you're going to they'll kind of guide you through that process. If you're buying something from a for sale by owner, then you're going to there's contracts here on the IE site that you can use, or you can find one from a local real estate attorney. Sometimes you can buy one for fairly inexpensive. You can go to a local Office Max or Office Depot. They have a huge contract section for just about anything you need: wills, real estate, selling a car. You can use one of those templates as well. You would just write the contract, fill in the blanks. They're very simple. You would sign that with your seller, right? And then you can in turn use that exact same contract to turn around and sell it to your end buyer. You're just marking up the price when you sell it back to them. So that's what you would do after your offer gets accepted. Now for me, I take both of those contracts and I send them to the title company myself. Even if I have a realtor, I'm going to contact that title company and I'm going to ensure that they got my purchase contract between myself and the seller. And then, hey, I sent you, I'm wholesaling this. I'm sending you the contract between myself and my end buyer. I just want to make sure you got that. We're closing, simultaneously, same day, usually within an hour of each other, those deals are closing. So I'm always very proactive. I always follow up. I always want to make sure that my contracts are where they need to be and ensure that I get my profit on that. So you don't need a realtor to do a wholesale deal. I know when you're just getting started, one of the things they say is find a great realtor, and that's terrific. I encourage that. You're going to want to find a realtor that's investor friendly. Don't just pick the first realtor that answers the phone. You want to make sure they understand investing and your formula for making offers and why you're offering what you are, because it is a mathematical formula. You're not lowballing an offer. And every time I hear somebody, a realtor, say, well, you're just lowballing, I'm like, no, it's a mathematical formula. I'd be happy to show it to you. And never again do they say anything about a lowball offer. So, and make sure that you're working with somebody that understands investing as far as realtor goes if you do want to find a realtor to work with. You have someone that wants to get rid of 20 rental properties, and where do I get comps without an agent? Okay, so congratulations on finding somebody that wants to sell 20 properties. That's incredible. I certainly would do a couple things with that. I would make sure that if they're selling it as a package, meaning they have to sell all of them at one time, not only what the total investment is for your end buyer, but what each property breaks down to respectively as far as its purchase price goes. Because really what it's going to boil down to is what the return on investment is for each one of those properties. And you would write a contract, either one universal contract, but have an addendum outlining each property and each individual property's purchase price. Or you will write 20 separate property purchase contracts if they don't mind piecing them out one at a time. Maybe you've got a buyer that wants to buy these 2 and another one that wants to buy 4 over here and one that wants to buy 1 here. You'll need to break those out. So you want to make sure that you're able to break out that contract and sell them separately. As far as getting comparables without an agent, I do know that the IE site has a couple resources. If you're fairly new, you might have access to something called the Deal Desk. If not, I think there was something, what's that other one called? Not the Deal Desk. Do you remember what that was called? PropTrend. Sorry, brain freeze. PropTrend is another one. It can kind of show you comparable properties. You can look online. You can look at Zillow sometimes for comparable properties. I wouldn't use that as an actual valuation for your home because that's kind of skewed a little bit. But you can also find a realtor that'll work with you and maybe ask them to run comps for you and compensate them a little bit for their time, especially if they can bring you a buyer for one of those, right? Why not? Maybe they'll give you numbers and say, hey, these look pretty great. I've got an investor that'll be interested in a couple of these properties, and have them run the comps for you. And then that way you're also opening up your buyer's palette to make sure that you're getting access all across the board. For me, and when I run comparable properties, I'm looking at Oh, somebody just put up findcompsnow.com. Thank you very much, Kathy. That's one I hadn't heard of. So there you go, guys. That's another great resource. See, this family is so amazing. We have so many resources at our fingertips. And really, all it takes is just asking a specific question. Someone's always going to have what you need or can direct you to the place to find the answer. So, Kathy, thank you so much for that. Want to make sure that as far as I go with comparables, I'm going to look at solds online, and if I can see what has already sold, and you can look up that on Zillow. That's pretty easy. Or you can go to any other realtor.com and see sold properties, and just look for like properties. And this is very important when you're evaluating your property for your end buyer, especially if their option is to flip it and put it back on the market. You want to make sure that and you can share with them what that property could potentially sell for once it's renovated. And that's going to help you calculate your formula for your offer. That's going to help them understand what they can project to sell it at. So knowing how to look up comparable properties and evaluate that properly and share that information accurately with your end buyer is really important. So I think I answered almost all of your questions in that one, Catherine. If I didn't, please let me know. Other than that, you guys, really, wholesaling it's not difficult. It seems a little daunting, I think, to some people, especially if you're just getting started, because it's that whole concept of purchasing with no money down, or you're not using any of your own money. And I can tell you, Jeff and I do this. It's a regular part of our business. 90% of the properties that we purchase, we wholesale to end buyers, to other investors who are looking for rental properties, who are just wanting to hold on to them, for their own portfolio, and or who are looking to flip. So that's why it's important to have your cash buyers list, know your cash buyers, and personally shop for them. That's one thing that we do, is certainly look for homes that meet the criteria of the buyers we already have on our list. And the reason we do that is so that we're never left holding a property that we can't sell to an end buyer. So it's great if you want to make a ton of offers and you want to, the 25-to-1 is awesome. It works great. Get an offer on a property and then select a buyer to do that. Or if you have specific buyers, just look for properties that meet their criteria. That way, if you get an accepted offer, you always have a buyer. So other than that, I don't know if anybody else has any other questions about wholesaling. Let me go back up here and look and see if I missed anything. All right, looks like I so far have gotten everything from everybody. All right, so with that being said, is there anything else with wholesaling you think we should cover?
Yeah.
Do you think anything else you can think of? No.
Yeah, talk about it.
Jeff's just shaking his head. No, you think we covered it all. So, really, that's it. I know I don't want to simplify it and be like, well, that's really all there is to it. But really, that's all there is to it. It's just a process of making sure your contracts are done properly and making sure they get to the right person. There's an assignment of contract here on the IE site that you can absolutely use if you want to talk to a title company or a real estate attorney about getting a copy of assignment of contracts that they use. It's money well spent. It's going to be just maybe 20, 30, 40 bucks, or maybe your purchase contract is $100. But really, it's not that difficult to find a valid contract that you can use. Okay. How do you estimate repairs? So Jeff's like, takes up a lot of experience, and it does. However, I would encourage you to befriend a contractor or 2 or 3. And when you're looking at properties, walk through the properties with them when you're considering to purchase. Talk to them about what needs to be done. At first glance, when you walk through a property, you'll be able to know what cosmetic stuff needs to be done, paint, carpet, lights, updating, basic things like that. But they may see things that you don't see. So walk the property with them, ask them questions, ask them what they're looking at, and learn from your contractor the things that typically need to be done on the types of properties that you're looking to purchase. Then from there, they're going to give you an estimate, right? And you can use that estimate to pass on to your end buyer, first of all, and secondarily, then you're going to have that knowledge by walking through properties with contractors. Eventually, you won't need a contractor to walk through a property with you. You're going to be able to walk in and go, okay, I know that replacing the lights is going to cost me about X amount of dollars. I know replacing flooring is about this much. Painting is about this much. Kitchens are about this much. And you're going to start to calculate those figures in your head, and you're going to be able to walk through a property and then come out and say, okay, I know this rehab is going to cost about $30,000 or $10,000, depending on the level of work that needs to be done. So for us, it was befriending contractors, walking through with contractors, educating ourselves. And then now, I mean, we have a general contractor that we use, and he goes with us. He goes to the properties now without us, but if he's not available, Jeff and I can certainly walk through a property and give a fairly accurate estimate based off of our experience with our contractors. That's how we find what the estimate repair would be. All right. What is the best way to find cash buyers? Oh, ancient Chinese secret. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that hard. In fact, if you get a good realtor, ask them to send you a list of solds in the last 90 days that closed with cash. It's not hard. They should be able to do that. They can do that on their MLS system. That's one way. Another way is to market yourself looking for cash buyers. You could put that on Craigslist. The biggest cash buyer pull for us is bandit signs. You know, we've not only got houses from bandit signs, but you can put a bandit sign out there that says 3-bedroom, 1-bath, must sell, you know, and put some ridiculously low price that would be very enticing, and people are going to call you off of that, and then you just pre-qualify them from there. So there's 3 methods. There's over a dozen different methods to find cash buyers, but those are probably the 3 ones I think that we've utilized the most, and those work pretty good. So Isabel, that was great. Thank you very much. You normally have a ton of questions, but you're feeling great right now. So good. Isabel, I don't know if you're new or if you've done some deals yet, but it doesn't really matter because you now have the tools for your toolbox to go out and start wholesaling full-time. Set some goals for yourself, as everybody that's on here, as to how many wholesale deals you'd like to get done in the next 30 days, and reach that goal. Estimate how many offers you need to make, and if you don't have enough cash buyers to accommodate, then you need to set some time aside to start finding some cash buyers as well. So Isabel, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm finding general investors who get their funds from loans, but not sure find how buyers again. Okay, so I think I just answered that question.
Retail buyers are okay, but they're just not as fast.
Right. Retail buyers are okay. So let's say you've got somebody that wants to buy the house from you and they actually want to occupy it. Those are owner occupants. That's okay too. You do the deal the same way, just knowing that they're going to close with their funds, their loan. That doesn't mean your half of the transaction on a double close isn't necessarily cash, because the loan is going to come in and whatnot. On the assignment of contract, it's not even an issue. You're just assigning that over to your owner occupants, and they're going to close normal with their lender. So it's important that they get a copy of that contract.
Next question.
Maybe the assignment of contract and purchase agreement. No, they are not the same thing. They're 2 totally different documents. So your purchase agreement is the contract that you have between yourself and the seller, and yourself and the buyer, that gives you the option to purchase that property. And your assignment of contract is a completely separate document that you're going to do between yourself and your end buyer that attaches to that purchase agreement. It's a separate document. That assignment of contract puts in there what your fee is for assigning your right to buy that property to somebody else. So keep in mind, on an assignment of contract, you're not assigning, I'm trying to say this wrong. You're not selling them the property. You're selling them the right to buy that, your right to buy that. Yeah, say that again.
They're not buying the house, they're buying the contract.
Yes, they're not buying the house, they're buying the contract that you've written, which gives you the right to buy that property, which in essence enables them the right to buy that property as well. 2 totally different documents. Look on the IE site under forms, I think it is. Let me see if I can find that really quick. I can't. without going off of here and seeing the questions. Go under, it's the wherever all the forms and the documents are. Go to the library, go to documents and forms, and just kind of scroll down. There's a purchase and sale agreement on there. There's also an assignment of contract on there. Print them out, look at them, see the different verbiage in them, and you'll kind of see how they go in succession. So I hope that helps. Is the definition of looking down a property only pulling a contract on the property? Oh, locking down a property. When you lock down a property, that means you have it under contract. You have locked that property up. No one else can have the right to purchase that contract unless you back out. So when you've got a property locked up, that means you have it under contract. There's a mutual acceptance. That's a key phrase I think everybody needs to write down. It's mutual acceptance. That means all of the parties have agreed to the terms of the contract. This is a legal and binding agreement. It is mutually accepted when your signature is on it and the other party's signature on it. Until both parties sign, you do not have mutual acceptance. The contract is not locked up. That property is not locked up. It is not a legal document. I know a lot of people make verbal agreements to purchase and buy houses, and I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it. Everything you do needs to be under a contract, and it needs to be a legal document so that you have your backside covered in case anything should go wrong. Does one estimate repairs without looking at the property itself?
How does one?
How does? Okay, I didn't have my glasses
What
on. Sorry.
initial offers?
So for the initial offer, so I'm gonna kind of step back a little bit. For us, we make offers on properties sight unseen. We're at a point now where we can assess some basic rehab off of the photos on the property. But if you're just getting started and you want to go look at some properties ahead of time, I encourage you to do that. And when you're making the 25-to-1 system a part of your daily business operation, it's tough to go look at 25 properties, and I understand that. I would pick maybe 3 or 4 properties to go look at in the 25 that you want to make offers on, and I would pick ones based off of the photos that look like it's just cosmetic, and then pick some that look like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do that one, and give yourself a range of levels to go look at. And then you can kind of gauge based off of the pictures that you're seeing online the next time, oh, I remember I saw this house and this is what this looked like, so this must mean this. Now, granted, those are general assumptions and you're going to assume that's the same throughout, and sometimes we get it right and sometimes we don't. But in the beginning, if you're just getting started, I encourage you to go randomly pick houses out of the ones you're going to make offers on and go take a look at them with your realtor and do some basic assessing until you're 100% comfortable with your own abilities and your process of walking through with a contractor to estimate the repairs. For us, once we get a property locked up, we officially go in with our contractor, walk the property, do whatever inspections we need to within our inspection time frame to ensure that our number that we came up with is 100% accurate. If we get into that property and the realtor or the owner conveniently, position the camera to cut out the fact that there's a big hole in the floor, and we get there and there's a gaping hole in the floor, well, that was unaccounted for, right? So we have to go back and say, okay, well, now this rehab is going to be $40,000 instead of $20,000. Now our numbers don't work, and so you're still in your inspection time frame on your purchase contract, and you can get out of that deal. So it's really important to know your contingencies in there, and it's really important to know what they say to ensure that you can back out of a deal if you need to for whatever reason.
You can always just put a number in there, 25,000, 30,000. That's what your inspection contingencies for.
Yeah, right. What Jeff is saying, and you probably can't hear him, is you can always kind of gauge, on average when you're running your numbers, kind of plan for the worst. Okay, the houses that we do on average, rehab is about $25,000 to $30,000. So no matter what property I'm running numbers on, I'm maxing out my budget. And if I come in under that budget, that's a bonus for my end buyer. That's just more money in their pocket. That just means they're going to come back and buy from us again. So we have a static number that we usually use when we're running offers. But until you're comfortable with that, I encourage you to go review properties, learn, experience the visual effects that are in there, the smells that are in there, so that you understand what all of that stuff is. And I know that sounds kind of funny when I say what the property smells like, but I can walk in a property now and we can determine whether or not we've got a raccoon problem by the smell of the property, whether we have a mold problem based on the smell of the property, or whether we've just got, standing water or whatever. you need to experience all of that yourself, in my opinion, so that you can relate that moving forward in your business. It's one thing to have the book knowledge to do it, but it's another thing to have the street knowledge. I think those two are very important, and they go hand in hand. You can get all the education you want, but unless you're implementing it or using it, you're missing a piece of that puzzle, and you're not going to be complete. So that's how we initially estimate the repairs without looking at the property. Does the site offer one-on-one coaching?
The site doesn't, but he offers one-on-one coaching, but you can go to the life coach.
So there, you can get one-on-one coaching. I don't know that the IE site does, but there is a one-on-one coaching opportunity, and you can certainly go on and ask. You know what? I'd have to find out about that. I would touch base with, I guess, Gina or Andrea about the one-on-one coaching that might be available. I know there are several individuals that do one-on-one coaching. There is a fee for that, and I'm not familiar with what that is, but certainly ask those ladies. And if there's somebody specific you'd like to do your coaching with, find out if that person's available and how they can set that up for you. There's also life coaching available on the IE site, and I think if you're a member of IE, I believe that comes with it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it does. So you can take advantage of that as well. But the life coaching, if you can hear my dog in the background, we have a puppy, and he's irritated that we're not spending time with him right now if you hear him whining, so I'm sorry about that. Remember that your life coach, can you just take him outside or something? Remember that your life coach is not going to be there. Sorry. That your life coach is not going to be there to help you work your deals. They're there to help you organize your, yourself, your business, your goals, and kind of help you moving forward in that. So if you're looking for coaching in regards to setting up, specific entities in your business, or how to do wholesale deals or look for properties, you're going to want specific one-on-one coaching for that. So certainly reach out to one of the individuals on here under the expert contributors, I think, or we can certainly find that information out for you. So other than that, I think, well, Catherine, I'm glad that you don't have as much stress as you did before, because truly, once you do one or two of these, it's just easy to do. And like I said, we make it a daily part of our business operation to do wholesaling, and you can too. Really, everybody can. So I don't want anybody to leave this hangout this evening with any anticipation or any frustration, saying, gosh, I'm not really sure if I can still do this. It seems really complicated. I don't know. I would encourage you to write the I don't know on a piece of paper, right? I don't know if I can wholesale. Go ahead and do that, because if you're worried about it, this is what I want you to do. And then I want you to fold that piece of paper up, and I want you to rip it up and throw it in the trash. Because you can, you can certainly do this, and Gina wants to see the puppy. So I'll tell you about my puppy really quick, our puppy. We adopted him. His name is Duke. We adopted him from the Humane Society a few months ago. And so he's a mutt. I'm not really quite sure what he is, but he's beautiful. And he has a personality of a human. You could hear him talking there for a moment. If you ask him to tell you about it, he talks. And he loves Jeff. He's just amazing. So here's our puppy. Jeff's bringing the dog over. Our little puppy, he is, here, bring his face over here. Look at this face. Look at this face. He is 11 months old, and he weighs 65 pounds. So the 14-pound puppy that we purchased from the Humane Society is going to be very little anymore. But we're okay with that. We love him. He's a great part of our family. And he's got a sense of humor like you wouldn't believe. And he goes with us everywhere. He goes to our job sites. If we're assessing properties, he goes with us and walks around the properties with us. He's a good boy. We love him very much. So anyway, that's Duke. So
and here's our junior rehabber.
Yeah. Oh, well, and if you want to meet our junior rehabber, this is Brooke. Everybody, this is Jeff's beautiful daughter. Isn't she amazing? She loves rehab just as much as we do, and she helps with some design elements, and we make it a family event. So if you've got kiddos in your life, don't be afraid to invite them to go to properties and look at properties with you. The cool thing about what we do is that we've paid for a lot of education here, and we're passing that on to Brooke. She's getting to learn all of this stuff. And what is it that you told your dad one time, that when you're 16, your friends are all going to be at Steak and Shake, and what are you going to be doing? Rehabbing.
Making thousands of
dollars. So it's something that we make a family affair, and I encourage you guys to all do the same, because there's great quality family time there as well. So any other questions we have for this evening? Brooke, is there any advice you want to give people that want to do real estate investing?
Take action.
No, look, I look right there's the camera. You look right at the camera.
Take action.
There you go. From the wise words of Brooke Heflin, the 11-year-old amazing real estate investor. All right. Anyway, Gina says she loves my rehabber. No, she's talking about Brooke. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had an amazing evening. We're getting to the top of the hour. If there's any last questions that you guys have for us, just let me know. And again, you know, if you leave this hangout this evening and you're processing all this stuff and you have questions, you guys, we are on the IE site. You can send us emails. You can send us private messages. You know, we're on the website. We're on Facebook. Look us up. Ask us questions if you have anything that you need to, you know, to get answered or need help with. Not only us, but there's tons of people out here that do a lot of these hangouts. There's a lot of expert contributors. You can ask the experts on this site. Why can't I say experts? It's like not coming out right. You can talk to people on this website and get the advice and support that you need. That's what we're all here for. This is one big family. And I don't want anybody to think that any question is insignificant or, you know, silly or, you know, maybe sound dumb or whatever. We all started with our first wholesale deal at one point. So we've all walked in your shoes. We've all forged that path ahead of you. And we're here to answer those questions and make it as easy for everybody as possible. So I don't think that there's any other questions. Thank you, Isabel. Go, Brooke.
Thank you.
Hey, there's Craig. So anyway, you guys, I think we're good for the evening. Again, I encourage each and every one of you to get at least one property locked up in the next, you know, 30 days. If you're just getting started, if you've done a couple deals, shoot for 2, and just stretch yourself, cause yourself to grow, and get a little bit uncomfortable, because when you step outside your comfort zone, that's when growth and change happens. And we just encourage each and every one of you to do that. So I think we're going to go. Jeff, do you want to come over and we can all say goodbye?
All right.
All right, guys. So.
And Andy, I know you're not here, but yes, I do have my shirt on.
Oh.
One of my many.
One of his many. So I just want to say, everybody, that you can do this. And we're certainly there rooting for you and encouraging each and every one of you. And from our family to yours, we wish you all the best of luck. You guys have an amazing night. Take care. Bye-bye.